Hi, welcome to our channel where we share the most intriguing stories. When Derek returned home after 2 weeks away, he didn't expect a gate, a toll, and a guard booth on his land. What started as a driveway dispute with a smug HOA turned into a full-blown war for justice, power, and ownership. They built a gate. He brought a bulldozer. When you've spent most of your adult life working construction and operating heavy machinery, it takes a lot to shock you. I've pulled people out of collapsed trenches, seen cranes tip in slow motion, and driven through hurricanes to finish a job. But nothing, and I mean nothing, could have prepared me for the absurdity I saw the night I came home. 2 weeks I'd been gone, took a big commercial contract up in Colorado, site prep for a distribution center. I left my house in Maple County locked tight, yard clean, driveway clear. No issues. I was tired when I got back, close to 8 in the evening. Windshield smeared with bug guts, the sun dipping low and painting everything in that dull orange glow. I turned off the main road, headed toward the narrow stretch that cuts along the edge of the Maplewood Estates HOA, the same 30-foot wide strip of land I've owned since my dad handed it down. Runs about 300 yards from the highway to my house, and, yeah, it happens to run alongside that tight-ass little HOA community with its matching mailboxes and cookie-cutter landscaping. But the land, mine. Every inch. Legally, permanently, indisputably mine. So imagine my surprise when I slow to turn onto my road and see a pair of steel dam gates blocking it. Not a chain, not a cone. Gates. Big aluminum bastards with cameras, a keypad, motion sensors, and, because why not, a little guard booth tucked to the side like it's the entrance to a private military compound. I stopped the truck, blinked a few times, thought maybe I took a wrong turn. But no, that was my land all right. I could see the oak tree I planted next to the property line. The gravel under the gate? That was gravel I laid myself 2 years back. I even recognized a small crack in the concrete marker near the fence post where I once backed into it with the trailer. There was a sign bolted dead center on the gate, glossy, brand new. RID, Maplewood Estates, Controlled Access Road. And beneath that, in a bold red stripe, free passage from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. All other times, $15 fee. I just stared at it. There's a weird moment when your brain goes completely silent, like your thoughts decide they need to pull over and check the map before reacting. This was that moment. I sat there with the engine idling, watching the red light on the camera blink at me like I was on some game show. Eventually, I stepped out and walked up to the little booth. Inside was a kid. Couldn't have been older than 20, munching on a bag of trail mix, earbuds dangling around his neck. He looked up and gave me the kind of smile you give a cop when you know you were speeding. "Evening, sir. You with Maplewood?" I stared at him. "No, I live at the end of this road, on my property. This road is my property." The kid looked down at something, probably a laminated cheat sheet of rules, then shrugged. Yeah, so the gate's for community safety. You can go through between 6 a.m. and 6 p.m. for free. After hours, there's a $15 toll." I blinked. "Are you serious?" He hesitated. "That's what they told me to say." I took a deep breath and forced my voice to stay even. "This is my private land. I have the deed. You can't put a gate on my land. Look, man, I'm just here part-time. I don't know who owns what. But if you want to go through now, it's after 7. You'd have to pay." I looked at the kid, then at the gate, then at the little padlocked drop box next to the booth where I guess they expected people to shove their damn cash like it was a parking garage. Then I looked back at the kid. "Who installed this?" He dug into his desk drawer and handed me a card like it was a get-out-of-jail-free pass. GL West President, Maplewood Estates HOA with a phone number and a gold foil logo that screamed smug suburban supremacy. I didn't say another word. Just turned around, got in my truck, and backed the hell out. Took the long way around to a service path behind my property that we usually use for hauling gravel. By the time I got to my house, the sun was gone and my blood pressure was working overtime. I cracked a beer, pulled out the original deed from the file cabinet, dated, notarized, and as clear as day. 30 feet wide, 327 feet long, extending from the highway to my residence. I've paid taxes on that strip for nearly 20 years. My dad paid before me. Hell, we even ran the water lines under it. And now it had a gate. A gate with a price tag. Around 9:30, I picked up the phone and dialed the number on the card. It rang twice before a voice picked up. syrupy sweet, like someone smiling while spitting in your coffee. Good evening. Gloria West speaking. This is Derek Sullivan. I own the land your HOA just barricaded like it's goddamn Fort Knox. Oh, Mr. Sullivan, so nice to finally hear from you. I hope the gate didn't cause you too much trouble. It's for the safety of our residents, you understand. Let me stop you right there. That gate is on my property. Well, she said, laughing lightly, our legal counsel reviewed the boundaries and determined that since the road runs adjacent to our community, we're within our rights to secure access for safety. And, of course, you've been granted free access for 12 hours a day. Very generous, really. I clenched my teeth. You're charging me to use my own land after 6 p.m. Only if you choose to travel at night. Most reasonable folks plan ahead. Besides, the funds go toward maintenance and security. It benefits everyone. You built a gate on private land without the owner's permission. You're going to take it down. I'm afraid we'll have to agree to disagree, she said, her voice dripping with smug. But if you feel strongly, you're more than welcome to pursue legal action. In the meantime, I suggest keeping trips within the free window. Click. I stared at the phone in my hand for a long while. Outside, the night was quiet, the kind of rural silence you can only get when you're not fenced in by rules, meetings, and fake smiles. Or at least, that's what I thought. That night, I didn't sleep. Not because I was scared, hell no. I faced worse in combat zones, but because I realized something far more dangerous had rolled onto my land. Entitlement. And I was going to dig it out, root and all. The next morning, I was at the county recorder's office before they even flipped the open sign. I'd called ahead to request all the land records tied to my property, including the deed my father filed back in the late 80s. The clerk, older guy, slow hands, faster brain, handed me a neat little folder after about 20 minutes of database digging. I sat down at a plastic table and combed through every line. There it was, plain as daylight. Parcel 17A, a privately owned tract of land measuring 30 feet in width, extending 327 feet from County Road 8 to private residence known as Lot 9. Stamped, certified, notarized. I asked the clerk to run a quick GIS overlay just to make sure. He pulled it up on his monitor. There was the parcel shaded in yellow. The gate, sitting squarely on it, on my land, without a single inch bleeding into Maplewood HOA territory. I made copies of everything, color printed the satellite image, highlighted the parcel lines, took digital photos, uploaded them to the cloud. I even got a goddamn USB drive with all the files because I wasn't going to lose this to some legal technicality. By noon, I was walking into the office of Tom Richards, my attorney. A bit rough around the edges, mid-50s, mustache like a sheriff from a Coen Brothers movie, and a handshake like he still did push-ups every morning. Tom had been with me through a zoning dispute with the county a few years back and helped a buddy of mine sue a contractor who poured a concrete foundation 6 degrees off level. Guy knew dirt law like a priest knew scripture. I dropped the folder on his desk. He skimmed through it, flipping pages slowly, then faster. His eyes stopped at the GIS overlay. He raised an eyebrow. This all looks clean. Because it is, I said. They installed a gate on my land while I was out of town. Cameras, a goddamn toll booth. They're charging me to use my own road. He leaned back, steepled his fingers. That's not just overreach. That's unlawful encroachment and unauthorized construction on private property. So what do I do? He grunted. Well, you have 2 roads here. The long one is filing suit. We can demand immediate injunctive relief and pursue a civil action for damages. The short one is a direct formal demand. You send them a notice to remove the structure within a defined time period, or you'll do it yourself. I nodded. I'm leaning short road. Tom smirked. That's what I figured. Still, I'm sending them a demand letter, 48 hours to remove all structures voluntarily. If they don't, you can take steps to reclaim your property. But you do that. Be ready for retaliation. HOAs love filing lawsuits. It's their foreplay. I laughed, bitterly. I'm not scared of paperwork. No, he said, but they might try to hit you from the side. Call the county. Complain about your business. Hell, call the IRS if they get desperate. I'm ready. That night, I didn't touch a drop of alcohol. I stayed sober, alert, parked my truck by the edge of the property and set up a trail cam aimed at the gate, infrared and motion triggered. I wanted eyes on everything. If someone so much as dropped a candy wrapper, I'd have it on film. Next morning, Tom sent the demand letter, certified mail, email, and a copy taped right to the little guard booth. It was short and punchy. Remove all unauthorized structures from Parcel 17A within 48 hours or face direct action and civil liability. The kid in the booth read it, then texted someone. I watched from my porch with a cup of black coffee, waiting. The call came that evening. Unknown number. I answered. "Mr. Sullivan," said the voice on the other end, smooth and smug, aged like bourbon poured over ice you didn't ask for. "This is Howard West. I understand you've been speaking to my wife, Gloria. I thought it was time I stepped in. You see, I practiced law for 35 years before retirement. Land use, easements, access rights, my bread and butter." I let the silence sit for a second before replying. "You're the one who came up with this toll gate stunt?" "I advised the HOA board," he said. "And frankly, Mr. Sullivan, I'd caution you against rash actions. My legal opinion, and I say this respectfully, is that your little stretch of road may qualify as a public easement. After all, Maplewood residents have used it to access the main road for decades. That history creates legal precedent." I clench my jaw. There's no recorded easement, no agreement, no signature. That road is mine. "Ah, but see, there's a legal concept called prescriptive easement, wherein long-term continuous use by the public." I cut him off. "This isn't a classroom, counselor. Let's cut the crap. You built a toll gate on private land, and you've got 48 hours to get rid of it." Or what? Or I tear it out myself. There was a pause on the line, just long enough for me to hear his smug smile. "Well then, Mr. Sullivan, if you damage community property, we'll have no choice but to pursue legal action. In fact, I'll personally ensure we sue for damages that could, how do I say this gently, devastate your little construction business. You understand?" I didn't answer right away. I just smiled into the receiver and said, 48 hours, Mr. West. Then I reclaim what's mine." He chuckled. "You'll regret this." I hung up. Funny thing about threats. They don't scare you when you've had rockets fired at your convoy overseas. All they do is focus you. I walked out to the garage, flipped on the lights, and stared at my bulldozer. Not yet, I thought, but soon. I showed up at 12:05 sharp, just like I promised. Not 5 minutes past noon, not 15 minutes fashionably late. 12:05, bulldozer rumbling, exhaust chugging behind me like an angry dragon. The whole machine vibrated with purpose. I'd fueled it the night before, greased the tracks, checked the hydraulics. It was ready, and so was I. 2 of my guys, Jimmy and Raul, followed in my truck, cameras in hand. They weren't just employees today. They were witnesses, backup, civilian observers, whatever the hell you'd call people making sure no one rewrites history later. The gate was still there. Steel panels gleaming in the sun like the smug smile of a bureaucrat. Guard booth untouched. The toll sign still bolted to the front like it had any legal weight. No movement inside the booth. The kid probably called in sick. Smart. I climbed down from the dozer and stood in front of the gate. Camera pointed straight at me. Jimmy gave me a thumbs up. I cleared my throat, looked straight into the lens, and spoke calmly. Today is Thursday, the 21st of September. Time is 12:07 p.m. These gates, cameras, and this guard booth are illegally constructed structures located on Parcel 17A, land owned by me, Derek Sullivan. I issued formal notice for their removal 48 hours ago. That notice was ignored. As the legal owner of this property, I am now commencing the removal of said structures. I didn't shout. I didn't wave a flag. I just climbed back into the bulldozer, lowered the blade, and pushed the throttle forward. The first crunch was beautiful, sharp, final. The gate didn't stand a damn chance. The aluminum gave way like foil. The posts sheared right out of the gravel like pulled teeth. I didn't even need a second pass. I swung the blade sideways and carved the keypad post right out of the earth. The camera snapped off and hit the ground with a pitiful crack. I kept moving, clean and efficient. The guard booth went next. Cheap plywood wrapped in vinyl siding. I pushed it 10 feet off the road and dumped it in a neat pile just past the property line, on HOA territory. Let them deal with their trash. By the time I was finishing up, I heard the screech of slippers on gravel. Stop! Stop that immediately! This is illegal! I turned in my seat just in time to see her, Gloria West, storming up the road in a lavender bathrobe and pink fuzzy slippers, hair in curlers, phone in hand like a weapon. She looked like a cartoon villain who'd overslept her court date. "You can't do this," she shouted, holding her phone up like it was Excalibur. "I'm calling the police. This is destruction of community property." I shut off the dozer's engine and climbed down, motioned to Jimmy to keep filming. "Ma'am," I said, not unkindly, "this is private property. You built on it illegally. I gave notice. I've got the documents. And I've got the footage." "You're insane. You can't just destroy things." "You're right. Normally you can't. But when they're built on your land without permission..." I shrugged. "That's called reclaiming ownership." She screeched something into the phone, pacing in angry circles. I caught a few words. Police, felony, threat, destruction. She was in full meltdown. 15 minutes later, 2 sheriff's deputies pulled up. One older guy I recognized from a contractor licensing inspection a few years back. The other younger, fresh-faced, maybe 6 months out of academy. They stepped out calm, hands off weapons, just doing their job. Gloria ran to them like she was reenacting a soap opera, gesturing wildly at the wreckage and the still-rolling camera. "Arrest him! He tore it down with a bulldozer. I want him in cuffs. He threatened me." The older deputy, name tag said Harlan, nodded patiently and then turned to me. "Mr. Sullivan, you got proof this is your property?" I handed over the manila envelope I brought. Deed. GIS maps. Letter from Tom, time-stamped photos. Certified mail receipts. Everything lined up like a soldier's kit inspection. Harlan flipped through the papers for about 2 minutes. His partner watched silently, eyes bouncing between Gloria, me, and the dozer. "Well," Harlan said at last, "as far as I can tell, the structures were on your land. You gave notice. You documented it. This looks like a civil issue to me." Gloria's jaw dropped. "He destroyed HOA infrastructure." "On his property," Harlan replied. "You'll have to take it up in civil court." "But she waved at the wreckage, sputtering. "You're just going to let him walk away?" Harlan shrugged. "It's not a criminal matter, ma'am." I tipped my cap. "Appreciate your time, officers." As I climbed back into the dozer, Gloria screamed something about lawsuits, destruction of property, revenge, God's wrath, possibly locusts. I didn't stick around. I'd said my piece, done what I came to do. By the time I reached the driveway to my house, the cameras were off, the dust was settling, and the bulldozer was cooling down. No one owns your land but you. Sometimes you just have to remind people, with steel. 3 days later, I was up on a roof, supervising a shingle job, when Raul called me from the office line. "Boss," he said, voice low and unsure, "there's a guy here with a manila envelope." "Process server, he just dropped it off." I didn't even have to ask. I already knew. That night, I sat at my kitchen table, flipping through 73 pages of pure HOA-grade insanity. Maplewood Estates was officially suing me for damages related to the willful destruction of community security infrastructure. They wanted $85,000. According to them, that included custom gates, surveillance equipment, a guard booth, labor costs, and, I shit you not, anticipated revenue loss from toll enforcement. And the cherry on top? They filed a petition with the county court to declare my driveway, my legally owned private stretch, a public easement, claimed it had long-standing functional status as a community thoroughfare. They were trying to take my land. Not just fine me, not just punish me, own it, bury me in process and paperwork until I either caved or choked. I brought everything to Tom the next morning. He didn't flinch. He just read through it in silence, lips twitching now and then like he was fighting the urge to laugh. "Well, they brought out the big guns," he muttered, flipping to the page with the financial estimates. 85 grand? For what? Aluminum and a GoPro on a stick. "They also want to declare my land public," I said. Tom looked up. "Yeah, I saw that. That's serious. If they convince the court it's a prescriptive easement, you lose sole access. Anyone can use it. Forever. That gate would have just been the beginning. Can they win?" "Unlikely," he said. Prescriptive easements require decades of open and hostile use, usually without the landowner's permission. But it's tricky. They'll dig up anything. Old photos, claims, even rumors. And it'll slow you down, cost you money. I leaned back. "They want to bankrupt me." Tom nodded. "It's classic legal siege warfare. Delay, confuse, bleed you out." By the following Tuesday, I got a letter from the IRS, a routine audit notice, or so it claimed. It just happened to mention an anonymous tip suggesting irregularities in my company's quarterly returns. Funny timing, huh? I called my accountant, Sheila. She'd worked with me for over a decade. Immovable, chain-smoking numbers wizard. She laughed so hard on the phone I could hear the Zippo snap shut. "They picked the wrong damn year to try that," she said. "Your books are cleaner than a Mormon prom. I'll prep everything. Let 'em come." But it wasn't just numbers now. This was psychological warfare. Pressure on every front. HOA lawsuit. Property petition, IRS audit. I had suppliers calling, asking if I was in trouble, clients subtly delaying payments. Even one subcontractor backed out of a future job, mumbling something about not wanting to get involved in a legal mess. They weren't just trying to win in court. They wanted to isolate me, discredit me, make me radioactive in my own damn community. I started noticing HOA people driving by my property real slow, cell phones up, cameras pointed. One even came up and asked if I had a permit for some of the construction equipment parked out front. I smiled, took his photo, and told him if he stepped a foot past my property line, I'd file a harassment complaint so hard his grandkids would feel it. He left. The pressure was real, but it wasn't fear I felt. It was clarity. These people weren't just entitled, they were strategic, organized, and arrogant enough to think they could outmaneuver someone who spent years managing logistics under mortar fire. They wanted war? Fine. We'd do it their way, through the courts, through paper, through motions and filings. But I wasn't playing defense. I was going to hit back, and I was going to hit hard. I don't believe in punching down. But when someone tries to take your land, burn your business, and drag your name through the mud, you damn well make sure you hit back. And you hit back smart. Tom and I got to work immediately. We drafted a countersuit against the HOA for illegal construction on private property, seeking $50,000 in damages for restricted access, harassment, and legal expenses. That was just the opening move. But the real bomb. We filed a personal civil suit against Gloria and Howard West, not the HOA, them personally. We named them as individuals responsible for organizing an illegal toll system and attempting to coerce payment under false pretenses. That's extortion. Civil? For now. But we weren't stopping there. Tom's paralegal handed me a copy of the complaint. My name right next to theirs, black on white. Beautiful. "They won't see this coming," Tom said, cracking his knuckles. "HOA boards love hiding behind the entity, dragging them into the light. That's how we get leverage." "Let's give them some light then," I said. And we did. Next, I hired a private investigator, guy named Wallace. Retired state trooper turned professional nosy bastard. Wore flannel, didn't talk much, got results. I told him to dig into the HOA's finances. I wanted to know where the toll idea came from, how they voted on it, and most importantly, who benefited. He came back a week later with a bombshell. Over the past 5 years, Maplewood Estates had collected over $200,000 in security fees, special safety assessments, and infrastructure upgrades. That part wasn't surprising. What was surprising? Barely any of that money had been spent on anything resembling actual security, not until the gate. And even then, the contractor listed for the install, Everhart Civil Solutions, a private LLC out of Sarasota. Registered agent, Howard L. West. Gloria's husband, the HOA, had been paying his shell company for consulting, infrastructure, compliance research, and more. Essentially, they funneled community money into their own pockets. I remember just staring at the spreadsheet Wallace gave me. It wasn't just greed, it was fraud. Tom looked like Christmas came early. "We give this to the DA. They won't be able to sweep it under the rug. This is criminal. Embezzlement. Abuse of fiduciary duty." I nodded. "Let's go." We submitted the financial evidence along with a formal request for investigation to the Hampshire County District Attorney's Office. And then, nothing. No call. No confirmation. Not even a canned response. Tom followed up twice, left voicemails, sent another written notice. 2 weeks later, we finally got a short email from the office of District Attorney Martin Rose, a man I hadn't heard of before, but Tom definitely had. The email said, and I quote, "At this time, we do not find sufficient cause to pursue a criminal investigation. The matter appears to be civil in nature." Tom stared at the screen like it had insulted his mother. "That's complete bullshit. This isn't a contract dispute. This is $200,000 in misused funds, routed through a fake company." "Who the hell is this Rose guy?" I asked. Tom leaned back. "Martin Rose, elected DA, former civil litigator. made his name prosecuting small-town corruption cases. And what? And he and Howard West worked at the same law firm 20 years ago. There it was. The goddamn missing puzzle piece. Old boys club. Retired lawyers watching each other's backs. One makes the mess, the other makes sure it doesn't go public. Gloria wasn't just some HOA tyrant. She had institutional cover. That night, I sat on my porch with a beer, watching the wind move through the trees, trying to swallow down the realization that this fight might not be fair. But screw fair. Fair went out the window when they tried to steal my land and ruin my business. If the DA wanted to play politics, fine. We'd go around him. So we reached out to the state attorney general's office, sent everything, the deeds, the gate photos, the fake invoices, the West Company records, and we made sure it wasn't quiet. Tom called a friend at Channel 7, small local news team, but hungry, gave them the whole story. By the weekend, the headline read, "Private landowner bulldozes HOA toll gate." But was it legal? A day later, where did $200,000 in HOA fees go? Local attorney faces questions. The first real cracks had formed. It wasn't just my fight anymore. The week after the story hit the air, everything changed. What started as a neighborly dispute turned full-blown public scandal. Channel 7's report ran twice on the evening news and got picked up by a regional affiliate. They showed aerial shots of the bulldozed gate, interviewed a couple of Maplewood residents, and even used a freeze frame of me standing next to the dozer like I was some kind of land rights folk hero. Tom joked I should start charging for autographs. I wasn't laughing. I got 2 more anonymous letters stuffed in my mailbox, one calling me a hero, the other calling me a terrorist in flannel. Typical. But what mattered was what happened in court. The county judge didn't dismiss my countersuit. He scheduled a hearing. That was big. That meant our evidence, the deed, the timeline, the videos, the financial records, had legal teeth. The West tried to file a motion to dismiss based on malicious intent and harassment, but the judge shot it down in less than 24 hours. Tom was giddy. They thought they could lawyer this thing into oblivion, he said. But now they're stuck. Discovery opens in 2 weeks. We're going to drag every bank statement, email, and meeting minute into the sunlight. Meanwhile, the HOA doubled down. Their lawyers, some slick-suited bastard from a boutique firm in Charleston, filed a motion to seal the financial records, claiming they contained sensitive resident data. Pure misdirection. The judge denied it. The noose was tightening. But the most unexpected thing, people started coming forward. It started with a call from a woman named Carol Dean, longtime Maplewood resident. Soft-spoken, nervous. She asked if I could meet her, off the record, at the diner on Old Farm Road. When I showed up, she handed me a crumpled stack of emails she'd printed, internal HOA board messages. Gloria had forwarded a quote for the gate installation to Howard before it was even discussed at a meeting. Another email showed Howard coaching the board on how to justify special assessments with vague safety language. Carol looked terrified. "I voted for Gloria twice," she said, "but this isn't what I signed up for. They're hiding things." I passed it all to Tom. That broke the seal. 2 more residents followed. An elderly couple who said they never saw actual budgets, and a local handyman who claimed he was asked to fake an estimate for fencing that was never built. The scandal was spreading like wildfire. HOA meetings started drawing record attendance. Someone leaked minutes where Gloria called me a ticking time bomb with a god complex. I printed that one out and framed it. Then finally came the call we were waiting for. The state attorney general's office was opening an investigation. Apparently, the media coverage, plus a few nudges from a state senator with property near Maplewood, pushed the issue high enough up the food chain. They were sending a financial crimes unit to audit the HOA's books and requested an official interview with me, Tom, and Wallace. Tom wore his best jacket. We sat in a state building, sterile lighting, clean walls, serious faces. The investigator, tall woman with a voice like a librarian but eyes like a predator, asked sharp, short questions. No smiles, just facts. After 45 minutes, she leaned forward and said, "This looks bigger than HOA fraud. If even half of this stands up in court, we're talking felony misuse of community funds, falsified contracts, and possibly obstruction of justice." Tom nodded slowly. "The obstruction? You mean the DA refusing to investigate?" She didn't answer, just wrote something in her notebook. They were looking into Rose, too. Howard's connection to the DA was about to become a liability. Back in Maplewood, the air was shifting. At least half a dozen residents had signed a petition to remove Gloria as HOA president. They didn't have the votes yet, too many people still scared or loyal, but momentum was building. Someone even spray-painted $15 my ass on the sidewalk near the HOA clubhouse. I didn't do it, but I laughed like hell when I saw it. I wasn't naive. I knew they'd keep fighting, knew the courtroom battles were just beginning. But for the first time since I saw that damn gate, I felt like I wasn't alone. This wasn't just about my land anymore. It was about everybody they'd ever pushed around. The courtroom was packed. It was the kind of turnout you'd expect for a murder trial or a celebrity divorce, not a dispute over a damn driveway. But every row of benches in that polished oak chamber was filled. Residents from Maplewood Estates, contractors I'd worked with, a few reporters with press badges, even some local activists waving signs that said, "Land rights equals civil rights." I walked in wearing a clean work shirt and boots. No tie, no apology. I wasn't trying to look like a victim or a martyr. I just wanted to look like me. Gloria and Howard were already seated at the plaintiff's table, whispering to their lawyer, a silver-haired guy who probably charged more per hour than I paid in rent my first year in business. Gloria looked brittle. Howard looked annoyed. Neither looked confident. The judge, an older woman with half-moon glasses and a voice that could cut drywall, opened the session and laid out the agenda. The HOA's case against me, my countersuit, and the motion regarding the alleged public easement. No more hiding. Their lawyer went first. He painted me as a dangerous, unstable landowner who destroyed vital security infrastructure in a fit of personal rage. Said I was hostile to community standards, and implied, without actually saying, that I was some kind of anti-government radical. He used the word bulldozer like it was a synonym for violence. Then he pivoted to the big argument: prescriptive easement. Claimed the road had been used for decades by the community, that it functioned as a shared access point, and that the HOA had a right, even a duty, to regulate it. It sounded polished, expensive, totally disconnected from reality. Tom stood and shredded it in 10 minutes flat. He began with the deed, held it up, read directly from it, made the court clerk confirm the parcel maps. "This is private land," he said. "Every inch legally owned, documented, and never granted for public use." Then he queued up the video footage from the demolition, played it for the court, me reading the statement, calmly removing the gate, even waving at the cops as they left. It wasn't rage. It wasn't violence. It was calculated lawful action. Next, he went after the toll system, brought out the sign, $15 after 6 p.m. Asked the court, if this was a shared road, why was he the only one being charged to use it? Their lawyer objected. The judge overruled. "It's relevant," she said. And then came the hammer blow. The financial evidence. Wallace had compiled everything into a single clean timeline. Funds collected, lack of HOA member votes, payments to Howard's shell company, invoices for work never done, multiple signatures forged, over $200,000 that had disappeared into paper fog. Gloria's face cracked first. She looked like she was holding in a scream. Howard still had that lawyer's poker face, but his knuckles were white. When Tom revealed that the contractor listed for the gate install was registered to Howard West himself, the courtroom buzzed. The judge banged her gavel twice, called for order, and then, quietly, she said, "I'm referring this evidence to the State Attorney General's office for review under fraud and misuse of fiduciary funds." You could have heard a pin drop. But we weren't done. Tom called Carol Dean to the stand. She was nervous, but she testified clearly, said she'd been misled, that the HOA board never disclosed the real spending, that she'd been pressured to keep quiet. The opposing counsel tried to rattle her. Failed. Then they called no one in response. No rebuttal witnesses, no paper trail to prove community access, no proof that anyone but me had any legal claim to the road. By the third day, it was over. The judge didn't issue a ruling on the spot. Said she'd take everything under advisement, issue written orders the following week. Standard procedure, but you could feel it in the air. They'd lost. That night, Channel 7 ran a new headline. HOA trial uncovers potential fraud scheme. State launches criminal inquiry. Reporters swarmed the courthouse steps. Gloria pushed past them. Howard said nothing. I gave one short statement. Property rights matter. That gate wasn't just metal, it was a message. And I sent one back. the state attorney general's office confirmed a formal criminal investigation. Howard's bar license was placed under emergency review. Gloria's name was removed from the HOA website less than 24 hours later. And someone, I'll never know who, spray-painted a bulldozer on the wall outside the Maplewood clubhouse. No words, just the machine. I guess it said enough. The ruling came in on a Monday morning. I was pouring my second cup of coffee when Tom called. No small talk. We won. I didn't say anything for a second, just stared at the steam rising from my mug. All of it, I asked. All of it, he confirmed. Judge ruled the gate was illegally constructed on private property, dismissed the HOA's claims in full. Your countersuit is upheld. They owe you $35,000 for damages and legal fees. And the rest. Criminal case is out of our hands now, but the AG's office just dropped the hammer. Formal charges filed this morning. Fraud, embezzlement, abuse of fiduciary duty, multiple felonies. I exhaled. Didn't smile, didn't cheer. It was just over. Well, almost. The fallout came fast. By the end of that week, Gloria West was officially removed as HOA president by an emergency vote. The board issued a public apology, carefully worded, lawyer-approved, but real. The new acting president, a local real estate agent named Madison Clark, called me personally. She said, "Mr. Sullivan, I don't know what kind of hell they put you through, but I want to be clear. It's not who we are, and it won't happen again." I respected that. 2 weeks later, Goward West was arrested, booked, and released on bail. He walked out of the courthouse in a suit 2 sizes too big, looking like someone had drained all the air out of him. His law license revoked. Emergency suspension became permanent. They sold their house within a month. Rumor was they moved to Arizona, maybe Mexico. I didn't care. Let them go. Let the desert have them. The IRS dropped their audit of me once Sheila politely walked them through every decimal of our books. One agent actually apologized before leaving my office. I told him not to worry. We'd all been lied to. Business picked up fast after that. Calls started rolling in from people who used to avoid me. Former clients, new ones. A few Maplewood folks, too. Now that the HOA had new leadership, they felt free to speak again. One even asked if I'd consider bidding on a community pavilion project. I didn't say yes, but I didn't say no either. Spring came. Warmth rolled over the hills again, and I finally had time to fix the road. Laid fresh gravel, repainted the mailbox, cleaned up the ditch line, and then I put up a new sign at the entrance. A clean, polished wooden board. No toll rates, no cameras. It said, "Private property, entry by owner invitation only. No gates, no tolls, no bullshit." People slowed down when they saw it. Some smiled, some shook their heads. I'd catch them looking at the bulldozer in my side lot, still parked under a tarp. I kept it. Not for revenge. For the reminder. Because sometimes justice doesn't knock politely. Sometimes it has a diesel engine and steel teeth. And sometimes, to protect what's yours, you've got to make a little noise.